Welcome to Moments in History channel. Have you ever wondered what it would be like to walk through a city built to last an eternity? Imagine a civilization so powerful, its laws, language, and engineering still shape our world today. This is the story of the Roman Empire, a titan of history whose legacy is etched into the very foundations of modern society. So, grab your virtual toga, because we're about to journey back in time to explore one of the greatest empires the world has ever known. Our story begins not with a bang, but with a political masterpiece. In 27 BCE, the Roman Republic, riddled with civil wars and political turmoil, was transformed. A young, brilliant leader named Octavian emerged from the chaos. He was the adopted son of Julius Caesar. And after avenging his father's death, he masterfully consolidated power in the Roman government. Instead of declaring himself a king, a title Romans despised, he took the name Augustus and became the princeps, or first citizen. This clever move marked the birth of the Roman Empire, setting the stage for centuries of imperial rule. Under Augustus, Rome entered an unprecedented era of peace and prosperity known as the Pax Romana, the Roman peace. For roughly 200 years, the empire was relatively stable. This wasn't just an absence of war. It was a golden age of creativity, construction, and cultural fusion. Trade flourished along newly built roads and safe sea lanes, connecting Britain to Egypt and Spain to Syria. Goods, ideas, and people moved freely, turning the Mediterranean into a Roman lake. What held this colossal empire together? Two things: the legions and the law. The Roman army was a marvel of discipline and engineering. The legions weren't just soldiers. They were builders, engineers, and a symbol of Roman might wherever they went. They built forts, bridges, and miles upon miles of roads, so famously straight that the saying, "all roads lead to Rome," became a reality. Their innovative tactics and superior equipment allowed them to conquer and control a vast and diverse territory. And then there was Roman law. The Romans were pioneers in creating a sophisticated legal system. They introduced concepts like innocent until proven guilty, and the idea of a universal law that applied to all people, regardless of their origin. Their legal principles, like codified law and the rights of citizens, became the bedrock of many legal systems in the Western world. To be a Roman citizen was a badge of honor, granting legal protection and privileges across the empire. Of course, you can't talk about Rome without picturing its incredible architecture. The Romans were master builders. They perfected the arch, the vault, and the dome. And they were pioneers in the use of concrete. This allowed them to construct structures on a scale never seen before. The Colosseum, an amphitheater that could hold over 50,000 spectators for gladiatorial games, is a testament to their engineering genius. The Pantheon in Rome, with its massive, unreinforced concrete dome, still stands today as a marvel of ancient engineering, baffling architects for centuries. But it wasn't just about grand monuments. The Romans were practical. They built aqueducts, some stretching for dozens of miles, to bring fresh water to their cities. These aqueducts fed public baths, fountains, and private homes, drastically improving urban sanitation and quality of life. An intricate network of roads, paved with stone, connected every corner of the empire, facilitating troop movements, trade, and communication. This infrastructure was the empire's circulatory system, pumping life into its farthest provinces. Rome was also a cultural melting pot. While its own culture was distinct, it eagerly absorbed and adapted elements from the civilizations it encountered, especially the Greeks. Greek philosophy, art, and literature were deeply admired and imitated. Latin, the language of the Romans, became the lingua franca of the West. It wasn't just the language of government and law, it was the language of scholarship and the church for 1,000 years. Over time, it evolved into the Romance languages we know today: Italian, French, Spanish, Portuguese, and Romanian. But no empire lasts forever. By the 3rd century CE, the cracks began to show. The sheer size of the Roman Empire made it difficult to govern. Political instability became the new norm, with emperors being assassinated or overthrown with alarming frequency. The economy, strained by constant warfare and heavy taxation, began to falter. Inflation ran rampant, and the gap between the ultra-rich and the poor widened. Simultaneously, the empire faced immense pressure from outside. Various groups, whom the Romans collectively called barbarians, began to press on the frontier. Tribes like the Goths, Vandals, and Franks launched raids and migrations into Roman territory, sometimes as invaders, other times as refugees seeking land and safety. The once invincible legions were stretched thin, fighting on multiple fronts. In a desperate attempt to manage the sprawling state, Emperor Diocletian divided the empire into an eastern and a western half in the late 3rd century. This was meant to be an administrative solution, but it ultimately deepened the cultural and political divide. The Western Roman Empire, with its capital in Rome and later Ravenna, faced more immediate economic and military crises. The Eastern Roman Empire, with its capital at the newly founded city of Constantinople, was wealthier, more urbanized, and better defended. The final act for the West came in the 5th century. A series of invasions crippled its ability to function. In 410 CE, the Visigoths sacked the city of Rome, an event that sent shockwaves across the Mediterranean. It was a symbolic blow from which the city's prestige never fully recovered. The empire continued to crumble piece by piece. Finally, in 476 CE, the last Western Roman emperor, a young boy ironically named Romulus Augustulus, was deposed by the Germanic chieftain Odoacer. This date is traditionally marked as the fall of the Roman Empire. But was it truly the end? Not exactly. In the East, the empire lived on. We now call it the Byzantine Empire, and it would survive for nearly another 1,000 years, preserving Roman law, Greek culture, and Christian tradition. It acted as a vital buffer between Europe and rising powers in the East. And it was a beacon of civilization throughout the Middle Ages. Even in the West, Rome's legacy didn't just vanish. It was transformed. The new Germanic kingdoms that rose from the ashes of the empire adopted Roman law, language, and administrative techniques. The Catholic Church, headquartered in Rome, preserved Latin and became the main unifying force in Europe. The idea of Rome, of a universal, peaceful, and ordered state, never died. It inspired leaders from Charlemagne to Napoleon and continues to influence our ideas about government, law, citizenship, and what it means to build a lasting society. From the Colosseum's imposing arches to the legal principles in our courthouses, the echo of the Roman Empire is all around us. It's a story of incredible ambition, innovation, and power, but also a cautionary tale about the challenges of sustaining greatness. The rise and fall of Rome is more than just history. It's a timeless lesson in civilization itself. Thank you so much for joining me on this journey through the Roman Empire. If you enjoyed this video, please hit the like button, subscribe to Moments in History channel, and ring that notification bell so you don't miss our next deep dive into history. Let me know in the comments what part of Roman history fascinates you the most. Until next time, stay curious.